What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Trevor here again from Way of the Swan, and it's time for another awesome battle report. Captain Con's coming up in just a couple days, so we have time to squeeze one in before I head on over there and start recording some sweet tournament games, getting some tournament recaps for you guys, so stay tuned for those in the next couple weeks. This game, we have some sweet new Theme Force action with Constance Blaize, Knight of the Prophet, widely regarded as one of the worst warcasters in the entire game, who really needed fixing to become playable again. And in Signar, the way we fix things is we use science! And so we have, through the miracle of science, we have outfitted all of her precursor knights with storm tech and that made them into storm blades and storm lances and gotten a bunch of free points to do so. So I am playing a Storm Division theme force today with Constance Blaize. It's super cool. There's a million storm dudes in there, 2 max units of lances, 2 units of Stormblade infantry with free command attachments, as well as a free squire. So 15 free points, the max you can get out of this theme force, so super awesome. Her battle group has a Gallant and a Lancer in there. I'm not super happy with the battle group, but it is 3 points down, but I love the Lancer in there to get Repudiate out and to get a Sunburst out after the feat turn. There's also a Journeyman Warcaster with a Firefly for some sweet additional lightning damage and some field mechanics to fill out the points. They're also good for the feat. They can die and then it gets souls, and that's pretty great. Keep Gallant going if you eat some shots with Shield Guard, all that good stuff. But so far, this theme force has been pretty great, and I'm pretty happy with it. So we'll see how it goes in this game. Scenario today, as you can see here, is entrenched. There are the 2 zones, each one oriented towards one player's side. Players can dominate their own zone for 1 point, destroy the enemy objective. I think we're both running bunker in this game. Destroy that for 1 point. Control the enemy zone for 1 point, or dominate it for 2 points. 5 points to win the game. I did, unfortunately, have our camera get bumped a little bit there by accident while recording this game, so you can't really see my deployment zone, but rest assured it is filled with storm dudes, and it looks great doing it. Moving over to my opponent's side, he's playing Legion of Everblight, and this is the one and only Jake Van Meter, the scion of Everblight. I heard somewhere he's good at this game. But he's playing the Talons of Everblight, Saren and Rias today. A huge solo spam sort of list. He said he was trying to recreate an Oceans style kind of deal, like Kador did a lot in Mark II. Bunch of solos to shoot people with bows and arrows and stuff like that. So, we have a pretty standard battle group of Zuriel, Seraph, a Naga, and a Protector for some sweet guard dog action on Rias. Bunch of solos in there, Anissa Raval, 2 Deathstalkers, 2 Grotesque Assassins, 2 Shepherds for sweet fury management action, as well as some minions, Wrong Eye Snapjaw, and a Totem Hunter. The Talons are pretty minion friendly because most of their buffs is done through Marked for Death, which is a debuff, obviously, on enemies, meaning that there's not really downside to taking minions. They'll still work for them just fine. Wrong Eye Snapjaw, obviously, also just a great include in general, and you can stack some sweet defense on there with Star-Crossed as well as Guard Dog on Rias to get some hot riposte action going on. So I took the first turn, and here I go. We're off to the races. You see the Stormblade Infantry took their advanced move. That's an awesome benefit. Lets them keep up with those Storm Lances. And then Constance Blaize later on is going to have Crusader's Call to give all those models an additional plus 2 inches of threat range. So we're going to get some pretty obscene threat ranges out of this Constance list. 15 inches off the Storm Lances for the melee attacks, and 11 inches for the Stormblade Infantry. So, a very dangerous list. It's a lot of POW 15 weapons on one side of the table. And especially against a lightly armored Legion list like this, all those high accurate, high POW attacks is going to be very important. So here's everything running up. Those that top unit of Stormblades taking refuge from the Deathstalkers in that trench up there. The other units sort of clustering around Gallant. They're all going to be in range to shield guard. So if one of those Deathstalkers decides to try to take out that unit in the center, Gallant can shield guard one of the shots and essentially shut down that Deathstalker for the turn. There's the mechanics back there too, so any damage that Gallant gets shield guards onto him, like I mentioned before, that's all going to get repaired. So some good stuff going on. Constance cast Radiance of Morrow to potentially boost Gallant's attack and damage rolls with her focus if she wants on the subsequent turns. It's not a super useful spell, but early turns before she's casting Crusader's Call and throwing Sunbursts and stuff out, she's not really doing anything. So she might as well cast it and then just camp. At armor 17, she's pretty resilient, so she can camp pretty well and be pretty far forward. We have some shots coming out of the Legion models at those Stormblade infantry on the hill behind the house there. It's an unfortunately positioned house that I didn't think about while I was setting up the table. But they have the Seraph take out one and the Naga as well. And it looks like a Nisser of All was able to take out a Stormlance as well. Like I said before, I am saving Gallant's shot Gallant's shield guard, in case any of those Deathstalkers decide to go over and shoot those Stormblades. So I didn't end up shield guarding any of those attacks. What it does do is stop Jake from having an effective activation with those Deathstalkers this turn, because he's going to hold them back rather than just go into those Stormblades in the center. And the Stormblades in the trench there, defense 16, are going to be pretty hard even for Deathstalkers to hit. And if they come up to attack them, they're going to get annihilated by Stormlances, so probably not in their best interest. So we have the Rias bunker going down. She's behind a wall there, so she's going to be defense 18 against melee attacks, 20 against range attacks. I think she has Onslaught up, so she's going to be able to have Pathfinder to get over that wall on the next turn, even though it looks a little too big to slipstream over in any meaningful way. But Wrong Eye's also up there to give Star-Crossed, so any models that come into her are going to be have an even harder time hitting her, and she's going to be able to kill them in return with Riposte. So pretty defensive Rias up there. I'm not really going to be able to dig her out with melee attacks for sure. Her forward positioning, though, means that I don't really have a choice but to go for her. This is something that the twins do pretty often. Rias will get pushed pretty far forward in the hopes that she'll be able to get a juicy charge off early. She'll get killed in response, and then the Legion player will just feed her back and be able to do it again. So she'll potentially get 2, heavies worth of work done before the opponent's actually able to put her down for good. Fortunately, we're Signar, so she's not really going to have a huge a chance to use that very high defense. So I'm going to try to get rid of her before she can kill any of my dudes. So run the Firefly up within 5, and then I'm going to try to get some Electroleaps onto her to get rid of her. I think we have Constance going. She's putting down her feet, casting Crusader's Call. That's mostly for 1 or 2 charges, I think. But she, like I said before, she's not doing anything else with her focus, so she's just camping anyway. So it's not. There's no reason not to. So running up the Stormblades, one of them charges into the Seraph there. He is under Star-Crossed, so he's not really going to have a good chance to do anything. But that unit is Iron Zealing, getting way up in the center, and hopefully they'll die for the greater good and give Constance Blaize their souls. We have the one of them within 4 inches of Rias there, so the unit leader is within 4 inches of Rias, and he's going to get shot at by this unit of Stormlances. So only needing 5s to hit that guy in the back arc. Obviously, everything on the Signar side is immune to electricity because of the theme force, so that's pretty cool. All of the Electroleaps are guaranteed to go to enemy models, and Rias is suffering that pretty devastatingly. So she transferred a couple points of damage and then decided to just eat the damage rather than damaging her war beasts. So Rias is down. That's going to force Jake to feet her back instead of being able to feet offensively and trade Rias for some kills, or potentially trade Rias for or use the feet for an assassination run. One thing the Talons can do, which is very annoying and very dangerous, is that Saren can run. It threats about 18 inches. You can get slipstream forward and run within 2 inches of your Warcaster. And then if Rias charges something, she'll feet, swap places, and then be able to attack you with her giant Weapon Master Sword. But without Rias on the table, and with Jake having to feed her back in order to make use of her abilities, that's going to be off the table for this game. So that's very good, especially since Constance, she has decent defensive stats, but a high mat, high power weapon master like that, even with, especially with the crypt decapitation, can probably still put her in the dirt, no problem. Especially since Constance wants to be pretty far forward. So, it's moving over to the Legion player's turn. We have the Divine Intervention, the feet up. So, hopefully we're going to get some souls. We have that Grotesque Raider at the top there. It's being proxied by a pot handler lady, one of the pot attendants, because Jake hasn't assembled his second Grotesque Raider yet. So, goes up and clears that Deathstalker off of the Stormblade that charged her. I think that was out of my control area, even with the Squire, so I'm not going to get any souls for that. That is one issue with this list, is that it's so many models, it tends to range out very far. So keeping everyone in range for Crusader's Call and for the feat is a little difficult. So we also have Wrong Eye go up. He murderates the Stormblade that had charged the Seraph. Because he has snacking, he's able to remove her from play, so no souls gained there as well. So net 0 on souls. But I have a feeling that those Stormblades in the center there are probably gonna die. We have the Seraph shooting into. I believe one shot went into the Firefly. Jake's worried about the Firefly and the Electroleaps from it, so he's going to try to take that out as quickly as possible. And then I think a shot went into a Stormlance, excuse me. And Nissa Raval moving up, she looks like killed one Stormlance, so we have one soul, and then her second shot was shield guarded by Gallant. And then we have Zuriel charging in. He's going to be that proxy base right in front of the Firefly. So he gets his Assault Spray off, kills a couple Stormblades with it, so even more souls. I think we're at 2 right now. Unfortunately, the Firefly doesn't benefit from those souls, and so he goes down pretty easily to Zuriel's attacks. Getting a Quick Work Spray off. Looks like sets the Stormblade officer there on fire, but between Iron Zeal and the souls from the feet, he's going to be armor 20. So we're starting to get into the point where those guys are tough to kill. Jake trying to activate his Grotesque Assassin twice. Not something you're allowed to do generally. And then the Totem Hunter going off and killing that Stormlance with a charge and sprinting into place to jam up the rest of the Stormlances. So one change I would make to this list, I would put a Stormblade Captain in it. And in this game especially, it became apparent that it's very easy to jam this list up. It's basically a lot of melee dudes that rely on charging, so lots of jamming really makes it very difficult. So we had that Grotesque Raider kill I think it was just a field mechanic, and then sprint in front of my Stormlances, so they're not going to be able to get good charges from where they are. So far, most of the front lines being engaged, getting lots of souls so far. It looks like we're on 4 or 5 already. I think Rias went up and killed a couple dudes with her sword. She got feeded back. That's what happened. She got feeded back. So she's back in play, but the feed is used. We have the Strider Deathstalkers killing some dudes, and I believe they're prioritizing the guys outside of the feed, so no more souls are going to be getting given. But we are looking around 12-ish focus points for this turn. So that's going to be a pretty big turn. This is a pretty decent feat turn, and since most of the Stormlances are still on the table, this is a pretty good place for Constance, honestly. So I'm actually pretty happy about where things are at. So looking at the table right now, it looks like I can get Gallant into Snapjaw, actually, and after killing the Stormblade, he casts Submerge on himself to protect himself from any assault shots. And this might have been a mistake because that turns on Gallant's Purgation. So with the extra 2 inches of threat range from Crusader's Call, he's going to be able to get in there with his Purgation Sword and do some damage. So we're trying to clear some of the jam here, and again, this is where a Stormblade Captain would have been amazing to have, because those slower Stormblades can go in, clear the jam off that's in front of the Storm Lances, and then the other unit can charge right through them and go all the way around. As it stands, it's just taking some really tricky positioning to be able to get those models in and clear those guys out. So here we have a 2-man CMA from the Stormblades killing off the Totem Hunter, and I think the Lancer stabbed him as well, but wasn't able to kill him. And then one Stormblade killing that Grotesque Assassin up there. So now that's going to put us in range. So that clears off that unit of Storm Lances there for everybody except for that Deathstalker. So Constance goes, Cast Crusader's call to get Gallant farther up the table, and then Sunbursts out of the Lancer to get rid of that Deathstalker. It's within minimum drift range. It doesn't affect friendly models, and so she boosts damage and kills the Deathstalker there as well. And I believe we also end up spending the rest to Sunburst and kill the Grotesque Assassin that's over there. That might not be right. Stuff gets sunburst. There are sunbursts everywhere. It's crazy. But I do make a mistake here. I allocated 1 focus to Gallant, so he's on 2 because I was expecting him to Accumulator. But I realized that Riot's threat range is so ridiculous between his Slipstream and her moving that I would have been in mortal danger had I stayed within 3 inches of Gallant. So I ended up moving too far away and moving Gallant outside of the range to get Accumulator. So he's only going to be able to make 2 attacks onto Snapshot. Now, he is going to be in range of Radiance of Morrow, so I did keep that. He's going to be the orange proxy base there, so I did keep him in range to receive Radiance of Morrow. So he can make 2 essentially fully boosted Weapon Master attacks into Snapshot. That's probably enough to kill him, but I didn't like the uncertainty there, and I have to roll pretty well to get rid of him. We have Stormlances going into Zuriel here, now that they're clear of the Deathstalker and the Totem Hunter, taking some shots. I think one of them ends up in range of Starcrossed. Bunch of damage going down. And Zuriel's picked up. So those Stormlances getting a lot of work done, and I think that is a Stormlance that kills that Grotesque Assassin and frees up the second Stormlance unit. But so far, a devastating turn from Constance Blaize here. Being able to spend all that focus and clear the jam out. So here comes Gallant in there. He is under Starcrossed, but he has Purgation, needing 5s, rolling 4 dice, dropping the lowest. And we boost the damage to get 2 4-dice damage rolls onto Snapjaw and end up taking him out as well, I believe. Yep, there he goes. So 2 heavies down on the Legion side. This is an enormous amount of damage coming out of the Signar list here. But unfortunately, that does give up Gallant. So Constance's late game drops pretty significantly once Gallant's gone. She doesn't have any more Morrowind models to flank off of. But she is tough enough to kill that I think she can make a game of it. She can move around to her own zone, start dominating, and really just use her survivability and her high defensive stats to pull out the late game. Excuse me. The other unit of Stormlances didn't have a lot of good charges. I think one got into the Seraph there, it looks like, and another one moved over to engage Anissa Raval. Not a lot of decent damage. I was hoping to trap Anissa Raval in. So she wasn't going to do any more damage to me, but it didn't look like that would have been reasonable. That would have been possible to do. So I ended up just moving up to engage her. The field mechanics ran into my opponent's zone all the way in the back there. You can see the officer hiding in the back of my opponent's zone. I think there's a gobber in there as well. Just to make it difficult for my opponent to score. It is really easy for the Talons to dominate zones. Only one of them has to be in the zone to do it. So they can get a leg up on attrition, or on scenario, while still getting a lot of the work done. If for example, Saren dominates the zone and Rias ends up, killing dudes with a sword. But what we have here is the twins activating, and Rias ends up taking some attacks and trying to kill off Gallant. She kills off 2 Stormlances as she's in melee with, but she rolls like garbage on Gallant. And so Jake gets a little flustered and decides to go in for an assassination run. Now, I made a bit of a mistake. I misallocated the misallocation to Gallant meant that I was upkeeping Radiance of Morrow, and I had ended up camping less focus than I could have. So what that meant was that Constance was on 0 focus at this point. So Rias ended up, after flashing blading, she charged out of melee with Gallant. She has acrobatics, so no free strikes there, and was able to clear out the storm lances that were in the way of Constance Blaize. And then since Siren's able to channel through her, Siren put a Razor Wind as well as a Mark for Death into Constance, did a bunch of damage, and a Nisra of All goes up, puts 2 shots into her, and it puts her in the dirt. So unfortunately, after that awesome turn from Constance Blaize, bit of a miscalculation, and she ends up going down. But thinking about it, afterwards, there were a bunch of things I could have done better. The Arcane Shield wasn't, I think it was on a unit of Stormlances, but because the Naga's back there, can cast its animus on whatever it wants, and I think it did end up doing that. Arcane Shield wasn't doing much for my units, but it would have been amazing on Constance Blaize, since Siren spells can't ignore Arcane Shield. So one thing I should have done is, if I'd allocated correctly, I would have been camping an additional focus. Plus, if I had Arcane Shield, I would have been able to block at least 3 more of the damage, and forced the twins to cast Wraithbanes on them, or on probably Nisra of All, and I think one other model could have gotten a shot at Constance as well. And then I could have positioned a little bit better, so I could have blocked line of sight with the Squire and potentially with Junior to force Jake to make an additional attack to kill one of those guys before he got a beat onto Constance Blaize. So unfortunately, some poor positioning on my part led to Constance Blaize's unfortunate demise. But I was feeling very strong about the game. I think the list has some serious legs, and the amount of damage it was able to do on the swing back after the feed turn was pretty immense. With all of those charges, with +2 movement, I think with the Stormblade Captain to make the charges a little bit more easy, that would have been pretty good. So probably in the future, swap one of the Stormblade command attachments for a Stormblade Captain. But other than that, it is some good stuff. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this super cool battle report. And please stay tuned on this channel for some more battle reports, especially from tournaments. I'm hoping to record a bunch at Captain Con this coming weekend. So stay tuned for that and keep it classy, folks.